Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beatles Forever. It's time for the Beatles on this date. The first story comes from the Beatles Bible, and it's dated June the 12th. Paul McCartney announces Flaming Pie reissue, and this happened on a Friday, the 12th of June 2020. Paul McCartney's 10th solo studio album, Flaming Pie, is to be reissued on July 31st, and the 13th release in the Singer's Archive collection. Flaming Pie was released in May 1997 and was produced by McCartney, Jeff Lynne, and George Martin. It was McCartney's first studio album in 4 years, a delay caused by the Beatles anthology project. The Paul McCartney Archive collection began in 2010 with the re-release of Band on the Run and a range of formats with bonus tracks. 11 other solo and Wings reissues and the new Wings Over Europe collection followed prior to Flaming Pie. Although well received by fans and critics, the non-chronological and sporadic release schedule has been at times frustrating. Flaming Pie will be reissued on 5 physical formats: 2 CD and 2 LP editions, a triple LP version, a 5 CD, 2 DVD deluxe edition, and a 5 CD, 2 DVD, 4 LP collector's edition. The collector's edition will be limited to 3,000 copies and is exclusive to McCartney's website and Universal Music outlets. The second story, Ringo Starr releases multimedia ebook photograph. This happened on June 12th on a Wednesday in 2013. A new multimedia ebook contains previously unseen archive photography by Beatles drummer Ringo Starr. The ebook photograph is available on iTunes and contains 149 pages with over 100 images, 69 audio clips, and 11 exclusive videos. Published by Genesis Publications, photograph includes archive pictures from Starr's childhood, Beatle years, and beyond, accompanied by original text, audio, and video descriptions. Ringo said, "All the Beatles had cameras. I think we bought a whole load on our first tour of Japan, but I've been snapping away for a while before that. Millions and millions of pictures of the Beatles have been taken and published over the years. We always had a real photographer around us like Dezo Hoffman and Bob Freeman, who took a lot of photos of the Beatles for our album covers. But I took pictures of them photographing us, and I had a unique perspective of that incredible period of our lives. That's why my new book, Photograph, is so special, because these are the shots that only I could have taken. I've captured John, Paul, and George and myself in pensive and playful moments, eating, drinking, recording, relaxing, playing Monopoly, and fooling around in hotel rooms." Ringo told the Mirror, "A limited edition, hand-bound book version of Photograph, limited 2,500 copies, and signed by Starr, will be published by Genesis in December 2013. The next story comes from This Day in Music. The Beatles land in Australia. The Beatles arrived in Adelaide, Australia, June the 12th, 1964, and were greeted by an estimated 300,000 fans, the biggest welcome the band would ever receive, and they lined the 10-mile route from the airport to the city center. The group gave their first 4 shows in Australia at the Centennial Hall, Adelaide, over the 2 nights playing I Saw Her Standing There, I Want to Hold Your Hand, All My Loving, She Loves You, Till There Was You, Roll Over Beethoven, Can't Buy Me Love, This Boy, Long Tall Sally, and Twist and Shout. Temporary member Jimmy Nicol was standing in for Ringo on the drums, who was recovering from having his tonsils removed. June the 12th, 1965, the Beatles were included in the Queen's birthday honors list to each receive the MBE. Protests poured into Buckingham Palace. Hector Dupuy said, "British royalty has put me on the same level as a bunch of vulgar numbskulls." A short clip came from DM's website, and on this date, June the 12th, 1963, "Please Please Me, LP, 12th week in the top 10. And this was from the UK New Musical Express chart. And from the Beatles Bible on June the 18th, 1956, June 18th, Paul McCartney was given a trumpet for his 14th birthday. Next, we go back to the date of June the 12th from the Beatles Bible. In 1972, the U.S. album release of Sometime in New York City by John and Yoko Plastic Ono Band. And this was on a Monday in 1972 on June the 12th. The follow-up to John Lennon's critically acclaimed Imagine was released in the United States. Sometime in New York City was a departure for the former Beatle. It was a collaboration with Yoko Ono and the U.S. band Elephant's Memory, and contained some of his most political songs. It was a critical and commercial failure, and featured 2 discs containing 10 studio songs and 6 live performances. Reviewers were disappointed by Lennon's abandonment of the pop music he had embraced on Imagine, and the mainstream press had little sympathy for Lennon's broad-brush sloganeering and simplistic treatment of political issues. The reaction of Rolling Stone magazine was typical. Stephen Holden from Rolling Stone said, "Throughout their artistic careers, separately and together, the Lennons have been committed avant-gardists. Such commitment takes guts. It takes even more guts when you made it so big that you don't need to take chances to stay on top. The Lennons should be commended for their daring. What is deplorable, however, is the egotistical laziness in the sycophantic milieu in which it thrives, and that allows artists of such proven stature, who claim to identify with the working-class hero, to think they can patronize all whom they would call sisters and brothers." The reception was a blow to Lennon, who subsequently suffered self-doubt about the quality of his songwriting. None of his later works had the vitality of his first 2 solo albums, and he increasingly followed musical fashions rather than creating his own standards. John Lennon in 1972 told New Musical Express, "Most other people express themselves by playing football at weekends or shouting, but here I am in New York, and I hear about 13 people shot dead in Ireland, and I react immediately. And being what I am, I react in 4 to the bar with a guitar break in the middle. I don't say, 'My God, what's happening? We should do something.' I go, 'It was Sunday, Bloody Sunday, and they shot the people down.' It's not like the Bible. It's all over now. It's gone. Lennon later admitted the public reaction to Sometime in New York City had an adverse effect on his work. John Lennon in 1975 said, "It almost ruined it. It became journalism and not poetry, and I basically feel that I'm a poet." Then I began to take it seriously on another level, saying, "Well, I am reflecting what is going on, right?" Sometime in New York City peaked at number 48 in the U.S. 3 months later, following a copyright dispute over Yoko Ono's co-writing credits, it was released in the United Kingdom on the 15th of September, 1972. Despite numerous imported copies having been sold, it reached number 11 in the UK charts. Sales of the album were additionally affected by its high price. Although the live jam disc was intended as a free bonus album, it was given a separate catalog number, which pushed up the price of the package. The last story also comes from the Beatles Bible, and it's dated June the 12th, 1970. Recording The Ballad of Sir Frankie Crisp, Let It Roll, Behind That Closed Door by George Harrison. And this happened on June 12th on a Friday, 1970, at the George Harrison studio. It was the 12th recording session for George Harrison's 3rd solo album, All Things Must Pass. 2 songs were worked on during this session, The Ballad of Sir Frankie Crisp, Let It Roll, and Behind That Locked Door. This, as was previous day's session, was done mainly as an overdub session for the pedal steel guitarist Pete Drake, who was due to fly back to the U.S. shortly afterwards. The full band was not present. Over the next 2 days, Drake worked on the best takes of both songs. During this session, Drake demonstrated to Peter Frampton his talking steel guitar, a talk box he had used with his pedal steel guitar on his 1964 country hit, Forever. Drake played Danny Boy and Bridge Over Troubled Water to demonstrate the effect. It had a marked effect on Frampton, who used the talk box on several of his biggest hits in the 1970s. Peter Frampton said, "He put this tube in his mouth and started playing the pedal steel, and oh my God, it was unbelievable. And we were just going wild about it. And I said, 'Where do I get one of these?' He said, well, I made this one myself. And then after that, he lent that exact talk box to Joe Walsh to do Rocky Mountain Way. Then Joe went to Bob Heel of Heel Sound and said, hey, Bob, make me one that's louder. So that's where the Heel talk box comes from. And Bob Heel gave me one for Christmas because he knew I loved it. And the rest is history. After that, there was a 10-day break in the scheduled sessions, followed this day, during which Derek and the Dominoes, who had played on the earlier album sessions, performed their first live show and recorded their debut single. I will end the video here. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you haven't subscribed, if you could do so, it would help the channel to grow, as well as giving it a thumbs up. It's all a great help. And if you haven't clicked on the notification bell, if you could do that, it lets you know when a video is posted. More importantly, I want to wish everyone a good day, and tune in again soon to the Beatles Forever and the Beatles on this date. Thank you. Bye.